May you find grace, clarity, and purpose in whatever you are facing today.
You're definitely going to need it.
You really are, because today we're looking at a group of people who spent 38 years wandering in a literal desert, all because their parents made a catastrophic mistake.
Yeah, a massive one.
Welcome to our deep dive. I want to officially kick things off by offering a sincere divine blessing for your day and for your entire week ahead.
Absolutely.
We are taking you on a journey today into Numbers chapter 26, and we're using some incredible historical and linguistic insights from the Holman and NAA study Bibles to guide us.
Which are fantastic resources for this kind of text.
They really are. Now, if you were to just casually flip open the text to this specific chapter, I guarantee you'd be tempted to skip it.
Oh, for sure.
It looks like this dry, ancient spreadsheet, just a massive wall of hard-to-pronounce names and, census data.
It really does read like a Bronze Age tax document at first glance.
Exactly. It's incredibly easy to just skim right past it. But our mission today is to show you how this exact chapter, this ancient spreadsheet, is actually one of the most dramatic stories of survival you will ever encounter.
It's extremely high stakes.
Right. It's a story about the devastating consequences of rebellion and a completely new generation standing right on the precipice of a promised future.
And, whenever you feel like you are just another number in a massive system, this text kind of proves that every single digit actually represents a profoundly human story.
I love that. The numbers are never just numbers.
No, not at all. They are coordinates on a map of human experience. They tell us exactly who survived the wilderness, who didn't, and the underlying mechanisms of why.
Okay, let's unpack this. We really need to set the scene first.
Yeah, let's do it.
So the Israelites are camped out in the plains of Moab. They're sitting right by the Jordan River, and just across that water is Jericho.
They're so close.
The promised land is literally in their sights. But the camp is reeling because they have just survived a horrific plague.
All right, the timing here is everything.
It is. It's right in this volatile moment of grief and transition that God tells Moses and the new high priest, Eleazar, who, by the way, has just succeeded his father Aaron, to take a census.
And they are instructed to count all the men aged 20 and older who are able to serve in the army.
And contextually, more than 38 years have passed since the first census was taken back at Mount Sinai. So this is the second census.
Exactly. They are finally at the entrance to the land, but the internal makeup of this nation has radically changed since that first count.
The numbers themselves tell such a wild story. I mean, the grand total of this second census, right there on the plains of Moab, comes out to 601,730 men.
That's a huge group.
It is. But here is the catch. The first census, taken almost 4 decades earlier in the desert, was 603,550. Yeah. The total population barely moved. It dropped by just 1,820 people.
Right. Statistically speaking, over a 40-year period, that is essentially a flat line.
Yeah, exactly.
On paper, it looks like absolutely nothing changed at all.
But that's the illusion of the spreadsheet, right? It's like looking at a massive city whose population has stayed almost exactly the same for 4 decades. You look at the welcome sign outside the city, and the population number hasn't changed. But when you walk through the streets and look closely, every single resident has been replaced.
That is such a brilliant way to visualize it. The total is the same, but the people making up that total are entirely different.
Right.
And there is a phenomenal linguistic insight hidden in our sources that explains the absolute weight of this replacement.
Oh, I love the linguistic stuff. Let's hear it.
So in the original Hebrew, the word used here for taking the census is pakad.
Hakad. Okay.
Yeah. And in English, we naturally translate that as to count. But pakad doesn't just mean to tally things up like a calculator.
What does it mean then?
It has a much richer, heavier, almost judicial meaning. It actually means to visit, to pay attention to muster, or even to punish.
Wow. So it's not just some administrative head count?
Not at all. It is a divine audit.
A divine audit.
Exactly. When the text uses pakad, it indicates that God is taking stock of this brand new generation precisely because the old generation completely failed.
Right, because the previous generations saw the miraculous power of God in Egypt, but when they reached the edge of the land the first time, they rebelled out of fear.
Yeah, they refused to enter, and the consequence was that they died in the wilderness.
So this census, this pakad, is God paying very close, intentional attention to who is left standing.
That's exactly it.
So we are looking at a divine reckoning. And if you want to see the literal evidence of that reckoning, you really have to move from the macro level count, the big 600,000 number to the micro-level casualties among the individual tribes.
Because the tribal numbers are where the real drama is.
Absolutely. Because if the total population stayed flat, you might just assume everyone cruised along safely. But the tribal numbers show intense drama.
Yeah, they really do.
For instance, the text shows a shocking detail about the tribe of Simeon. They suffered a massive population collapse.
Staggering.
In the first census, they had over 59,000 men. But in the second census, they plummet to just 22,200.
A catastrophic drop. I mean, they lost more than 60% of their fighting force.
How does that even happen? Like, how does an entire tribe just hollow out like that in the middle of the desert?
Well, the historical context in the NAA notes provides the crucial mechanism here. This drop was not random, and it wasn't just natural attrition.
Right.
It was the direct mechanical fallout from the recent events at Baal Peor.
Oh, the incident with the idolatry.
Exactly. Just prior to the census, there was a massive incident of idolatry and immorality involving the local Midianite and Moabite women.
Which triggered that devastating plague we mentioned earlier.
Right. And a highly prominent figure in that rebellion, a man named Zimri, was a Simeonite leader.
Ah, okay. So you're saying ancient tribal structures meant that the leadership's corruption practically infected the whole communal identity.
Precisely. In the ancient Near East, a leader didn't just represent himself, he basically embodied his people.
Right, the whole corporate solidarity thing.
Exactly. Zimri brazenly brought a Midianite woman into the camp, completely defying Moses and God right in front of the entire congregation. It was an act of corporate treason.
Wow.
Because of the deep interconnectedness of the tribe, when the resulting plague hit, it targeted the fault lines of that specific rebellion.
So the dramatic drop in Simeon's numbers is literally the physical scar of that spiritual mutiny.
Yeah, their influence was permanently fractured. In fact, later on, their territory would basically be absorbed entirely into Judah.
It's chilling when you realize those missing 37,000 men aren't just a rounding error on a spreadsheet. They are a tragedy hidden right there in the math.
Absolutely.
And speaking of the scars of rebellion, the text actually breaks its own format to bring up a dark history lesson.
Oh, this part is fascinating.
Right in the middle of listing the families of Reuben, it suddenly pauses to explicitly recall the rebellion of Korah, Dathan, and Abram.
Which is highly unusual. Genealogies in the ancient world were designed to be efficient lists of legitimacy.
Right, just name after name.
Yeah. So for a genealogy to stop and recount a historical narrative tells you how deeply this specific event traumatized the collective memory of the Israelites.
It had to have scarred them, because the text reminds the reader that Korah gathered a group and openly attempted a coup against the authority of Moses and Aaron.
And the mechanism of their punishment was terrifying.
Oh, completely. The text notes that the earth literally opened its mouth and swallowed them up, and fire consumed 250 men as this stark warning.
It was the ultimate display of divine justice against an internal threat. I mean, they challenged the fundamental order God had established.
Right.
And the response was an instantaneous reversal of creation, the ground itself unmaking them. Noting who lost their right to lead is just as important in this document as noting who kept it.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Okay.
Right after describing the earth swallowing these rebels, there is this tiny, almost easily missed sentence at the end of verse 11.
Let me guess.
It simply says, "But the sons of Korah did not die."
What's fascinating here is the massive theological implication of that one little phrase.
Right. I mean, in the ancient world, you were tied to your father's fate. As you said, corporate solidarity was everything.
It really was.
If your father led a treasonous rebellion, your entire family line was dragged down with him and totally erased. But the sons of Korah survived.
Which means they must have looked at the fissure opening in the earth, looked at the path their father was walking down, and intentionally stepped back.
Wow. They actively broke the generational cycle.
They stepped back from the edge, both literally and figuratively. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it is incredibly profound.
Because they didn't just survive.
Exactly. Not only did the sons of Korah survive, but their descendants went on to become the core musicians and worship leaders in the temple.
That is amazing.
If you look at the book of Psalms, many of the most beautiful pieces of worship are actually titled A Psalm of the Sons of Korah.
That gives me chills. The descendants of the man who tried to tear the community apart became the very ones who wrote the songs that held the community together.
It's a beautiful redemption story.
It is the ultimate proof that you are not doomed to repeat the catastrophic mistakes of your parents. You can forge a completely new path.
It introduces this radical concept of individual accountability before God.
Mm-hmm.
The father's sin did not dictate the son's destiny because the sons chose differently.
Right.
It perfectly encapsulates the theme of this entire second census. The old rebellious way is dead, and a new, faithful generation is stepping forward.
So we see that rebellion erased Simeon's future, while repentance secured a future for Korah's sons.
Well said.
And that naturally pivots us from who survived the wilderness to what they're actually going to inherit, because the census isn't just a military draft.
No, it's a massive real estate blueprint for Canaan. The land has to be divided.
Correct. It is the administrative framework for distributing the promised land.
But I have to admit, as I was reading the rules for dividing the land, I hit a massive contradiction.
Oh. What did you find?
So what does this all mean? In verses 53 and 54, God tells Moses to divide the land proportionally.
Okay.
He says, give more land to the larger tribes and give less land to the smaller tribes. That makes perfect logical sense.
Right. It's equitable based on population need.
Exactly. But then in the very next breath, verse 55 says, but the land shall be divided by casting lots.
Wait, what?
Right. Dividing a nation by rolling ancient dice sounds like a terrible way to build a civilization.
Oh, I see what you mean. What if a massive farming tribe randomly gets a tiny strip of Rocky Mountains?
Exactly. How can it be mathematically proportional 80, completely random at the exact same time?
That is a great question. And from the study notes, it's a beautiful paradox. You have two distinct principles working together here, and understanding the mechanism of casting lots is key.
Okay, break it down for me.
The first principle is mathematical proportion. That ensures fairness and justice. A tribe of 70,000 people objectively needs more resources and space than a tribe of 20,000.
Right, to prevent overcrowding and starvation.
Exactly. So the size of the inheritance is decided purely by the math of the census.
Okay, so the math covers the how much, but the lottery covers the where.
Exactly. The casting of lots, which often utilize the Urim and Thummim kept by the high priest, determines the specific location.
Oh, okay.
Now, to modern ears, casting lots sounds like rolling dice in a casino. It sounds like pure, chaotic chance.
Yeah, it does.
But in ancient biblical theology, casting lots was a recognized mechanism for yielding a decision entirely to divine providence. It was basically asking God to make the final, indisputable call.
Oh, wow. I see. So it completely removes the human element of politicking and greed.
Precisely. Imagine the arguments if human beings had to debate who got the lush, fertile valleys near the water and who got the rocky, arid hills.
It would be an endless political nightmare.
Completely. The larger tribes would inevitably bully the smaller tribes. You would have civil war breaking out before they even unpacked their tents.
Yeah, humans are going to human.
Right, exactly. So by using the divine lots, it completely removes human manipulation from the equation. It proves that God is ultimately sovereign over who gets what territory.
So everyone has to accept their geographic placement as a divine assignment, not a negotiated political victory.
Yes. The math provides the equity, and the lottery provides the peace.
That is a brilliant system.
It really is. But right in the middle of all this high-level legal and territorial administration, the text introduces us to a highly unusual entry.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I was looking at this, and it seems like we have 5 women who found a massive loophole in ancient Near Eastern law.
Yes. Let's talk about the daughters of Zelophehad.
Right. In verse 33, in the middle of the genealogies of Manasseh, the text suddenly stops to tell us about a man named Zelophehad who had no sons, only daughters.
And it specifically names every single one of them.
Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah.
Which is wild. Because in a deeply patriarchal culture where genealogies and inheritances were almost exclusively traced through male heirs, dropping the names of 5 women into a military census is practically flashing neon signage.
Right.
These 5 women are stepping into the spotlight to challenge a fundamental blind spot in the legal code.
Because if the land is strictly passed to sons and Zelophehad has none, his entire lineage is just erased.
Exactly. Under the existing legal framework of the ancient Near East, land ownership was tied to male descendants to keep properties within the tribal clans.
So they would get nothing.
Right. When they entered the Promised Land, Zelophehad's name would be completely wiped out from history, and his family would receive 0 inheritance simply because there were no males.
The cosmic bureaucracy was about to completely leave them behind.
And these 5 women, Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah, they absolutely refused to accept that.
They look at this system and basically say, no, that isn't just.
Yeah, They are about to challenge the highest established inheritance laws of the land.
It's so bold.
It really is. This specific mention here in chapter 26 is setting the stage for their incredible legal victory later in the book of Numbers.
They bring their case to Moses, right?
They essentially bring their case to Moses, and God actually agrees with them.
I love that.
He changes the jurisprudence so that women can inherit land to preserve their family's name and portion.
Their inclusion in this census list is monumental. It proves that this new generation isn't just blindly, passively following tradition.
No, they are actively seeking justice and equity as they prepare to govern a new society.
It is such a radical moment. You have this massive machine of tribal division, and these 5 sisters step up and successfully force a precedent for their place in it.
Yeah, it's a huge shift.
But as we keep moving through the chapter, right as we see how everyone is scrambling to secure their physical real estate, we pivot to one group that is deliberately excluded from this entire boom.
Right, the Levites.
Yes, the tribe set apart strictly for the priesthood and the care of the tabernacle.
The text makes it very clear that they are audited completely differently from everyone else.
Yeah, while the other tribes count men 20 years and older who can fight, the Levites count every male from just 1 month old and upward.
And they total 23,000.
And crucially, verse 62 explicitly states that they receive absolutely no inheritance of land among the children of Israel. None.
Which is so interesting.
Why count them from 1 month old if they aren't going to war or getting farms?
Well, because their value to the community isn't based on their ability to hold a sword or plow a field.
Right.
The entire chapter is about securing a physical future in Canaan. But the Levites are excluded from physical land because God himself is their inheritance.
Oh, wow. That fundamentally changes their role in the economy of the nation.
Exactly. They don't need a plot of land because their property is the sanctuary and the service of the Lord.
They are the spiritual infrastructure of the camp.
Right. They rely entirely on the tithes and offerings of the other tribes to survive. And that intricately and purposefully binds the spiritual and practical lives of all the Israelites together.
It forces them to depend on each other.
Yeah, they're counted from 1 month old because their very existence from birth is dedicated to maintaining the spiritual health of the community.
But, the text also gives a sobering reminder that with this high spiritual calling comes immense danger.
Oh, definitely.
Just like Korah was mentioned earlier, as a warning to the general public, the Levite genealogy includes a stark reminder specifically for the priests.
Right, it mentions Nadab and Abihu.
Yes. These were Aaron's own sons, who died instantly when they offered what the text calls strange fire before the Lord.
Yeah.
Now, strange fire sounds mysterious, but there is a precise mechanism at work there, right?
Well, this raises an important question about the ancient concept of holiness.
Okay, unpack that.
In the biblical context, holiness isn't just a state of moral purity. It is a raw, volatile, physical, spiritual reality.
Like energy.
Kind of. The tabernacle was essentially a highly calibrated spiritual nuclear reactor. God's presence dwelt there, and approaching it required exact precision.
Right.
Nadab and Abihu treated the holy as if it were common. They introduced an unauthorized element strange fire into a perfectly calibrated environment.
So it's functionally like walking into a highly volatile chemical lab with a lit match.
Exactly.
It's an instant, natural reaction of pure holiness destroying impurity.
That is the exact mechanism. It serves as a terrifying warning that just because the Levites are the chosen spiritual leaders, they are not immune to judgment.
Right. They don't get a free pass.
In fact, proximity to the divine means they are held to an even stricter standard of precision and reverence.
Which brings us to the grand final conclusion of this entire chapter. We get to verses 64 and 65.
This is the best part.
And this is where the sheer weight of everything we've been discussing finally hits you.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is really the absolute climax of the book of Numbers.
The text states that among all these hundreds of thousands of men counted by Moses and Eleazar in the plains of Moab, there was not a single man left from the original census taken 38 years prior at Mount Sinai.
Not one.
Out of the 603,550 men counted in the desert initially, every single one of them died in the wilderness.
Sobering.
The only exceptions, the only 2 men who survived the entire journey from Egypt to the edge of the Promised Land, were Caleb and Joshua.
It is a stunning, mathematically perfect fulfillment of divine judgment.
Yeah.
God told that rebellious generation that they would not enter the land because of their lack of faith, and his word proved absolutely true. The spreadsheet proves the judgment was complete.
But it's not just about judgment, is it?
No, at the exact same time, it is a profound testament to God's preservation. He didn't abandon the nation.
Right.
He allowed a resilient remnant, the children of that exact generation, to survive, grow, and prepare to face a new frontier. Caleb and Joshua stand there as living monuments in an ocean of youth, proving that faith and obedience lead to life.
It really is a story of a generational reset. The old ways, the fear, the rebellion, it was all left buried in the desert sand.
Yep.
And what stands on the banks of the Jordan River is a new people, tested, counted, and ready to inherit their future. It forces you to look at a list of names and numbers with entirely new eyes.
It does.
It's not just an ancient tax document, it's a monument to human survival.
It absolutely is. The numbers map out the faithfulness of God and the resilience of a people who finally learned how to move forward.
And that leaves us with something really profound to chew on as we wrap up today.
I agree.
When you look back at the wilderness periods of your own life, those long, difficult stretches of waiting or hardship or wandering, what do you see when you take your own internal census?
That's a great question.
Who and what are you taking with you into your next chapter? Are you carrying the fears and rebellions of the past? Or, like the sons of Korah, are you recognizing the generational cycles that desperately need to be broken? What baggage are you choosing to intentionally leave behind so that you can actually step forward and inherit your own promised future?
That is the ultimate question this text asks of every reader willing to look past the numbers.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this reminder. God blesses all the listeners who take this journey with us. God blesses you, our listener. May you walk into your future with faith and courage. We'll catch you next time.